Deep in the heart of Louisiana, there was a place no one dared to go, a stretch of swamp known as the Whispering Swamp. Locals spoke of it only in hushed tones, recounting eerie tales of people who had ventured into its waters and never returned. Thick, moss-draped cypress trees towered over the swamp, casting long, ominous shadows, and the air was always thick with mist, as if the land itself was trying to hide its secrets. Ellen had grown up hearing the stories. Her grandmother used to warn her as a child, "That swamp swallows people whole, girl. It ain't a place for the living." But Ellen had always been curious, drawn to the unknown, and now, as an adult, she found herself standing at the edge of the swamp with a small team of researchers. They were biologists, tasked with studying the local wildlife, but for Ellen, it was more than just work. She wanted to see if the legends were true. The swamp was eerily quiet when they entered. The only sounds were the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant croak of frogs. The water was dark, almost black, and the further they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The mist seemed to cling to their skin, and even though the air was humid, Ellen felt a chill run down her spine. They set up camp on a small island in the middle of the swamp, surrounded by stagnant water and thick underbrush. As night fell, the swamp seemed to come alive, but not in the way Ellen expected. Instead of the usual sounds of nocturnal creatures, there was something else: whispers. Faint, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to rise from the water itself. "Do you hear that?" Ellen asked, turning to her colleagues. They shook their heads, though their faces showed unease. The whispers continued, growing louder, but only Ellen seemed to notice. That night, Ellen couldn't sleep. The whispers had grown incessant, like voices just beyond her hearing, calling to her. She stepped out of her tent, drawn toward the edge of the island. The water seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, and for a moment, she saw something beneath the surface, an outline of a face, pale and distorted. She stumbled back, heart pounding, but when she looked again, it was gone. The next day, one of the researchers, a man named Tony, went missing. His tent was empty, his belongings undisturbed, but there was no sign of him. They searched the swamp, calling his name, but the only response was the oppressive silence. The whispers, however, were louder than ever. Ellen began to see things, figures moving in the mist, shadows lurking just out of sight. Every time she tried to focus on them, they would vanish. The other researchers started to notice her agitation, but when she told them what she was hearing and seeing, they dismissed it as nerves. As the days passed, more of the team disappeared, one by one. Each time, their belongings remained untouched, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. Ellen's grip on reality started to slip. She could hear the voices clearly now, calling her name, urging her deeper into the swamp. She found herself wandering alone at night, unable to resist the pull of the whispers. They spoke of the swamp's curse, of ancient spirits trapped beneath the waters, waiting for someone to set them free.